Hi there. I'm so excited to welcome you to the Arthritis Life podcast, where we share arthritis life stories and tips for thriving with autoimmune arthritis. My name is Cheryl Crow, and I am passionate about helping people navigate real life with arthritis beyond joint pain. I've been living with rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years, and I'm also a mom, occupational therapist, video creator, support group leader, and I created the Room to Thrive self-management program. I am so excited to help you live a more empowered life with arthritis. We're going to cover everything from kitchen life hacks to navigating the healthcare system to coping with friends who just don't get it. Seriously, no topic is going to be off limits on this podcast. My interviewees and I share our honest stories of how chronic illness affects our lives. This includes discussions about mental health, sex, shame, pregnancy, body image, advocacy, self-acceptance, and so much more. You'll hear stories from all ends of the spectrum, from a person who's living in medicated remission from psoriatic arthritis to somebody living with severe mobility restrictions and severe pain from rheumatoid arthritis. You'll hear how people manage their conditions in different ways, like medications, mindfulness, movement, social support, work accommodations, and so much more. You'll also hear from rheumatology experts who just get it. We'll dive deep into the science behind chronic pain and what's the latest evidence for lifestyle changes that can help you thrive with arthritis, including exercise, sleep, nutrition, stress reduction, and more. This is your chance to sit down and chat with a friend who's been there. Ready to figure out how to manage your arthritis life? Let's get started. I'm so excited today to have Chelsea Flores to share her journey with rheumatoid arthritis, scleritis, and more. So Chelsea, can you let us know, where do you live and what is your relationship to arthritis?
Yes, hello. I'm happy to be here. So I am in Texas in the DFW area, and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in July of 2019 at the age of 24.
All right. And we're going to go right into your diagnosis journey or diagnosis saga for both rheumatoid arthritis, scleritis, and PCOS, because like many people, you have not just one condition, but you're juggling multiple. So how did that diagnosis journey go? And whatever you want to share about that.
Yes. So actually, I recently was diagnosed with PCOS, so that is fairly new. Honestly, since my teen years, I have always been told that it was a possibility, but I never researched or looked into it until currently. So I'm still learning things about that. But as far as my RA diagnosis, I received that diagnosis fairly quickly, which can be kind of unusual, I know now, in the autoimmune world. But I had actually gone in to see my PCP when I was very active at the time. I was weightlifting consistently. And I remember waking up one day and I had a pain in my left shoulder, which now I know is a flare. But at the time, I didn't know what had happened. I thought I had injured myself in the gym. So I went to my doctor because I honestly assumed it could have been tinnitus due to injury. And I was explaining my symptoms to her. At the time, I just told her about my shoulder. But she quickly mentioned that she wanted to do an ANA panel. And she said that I was actually showing other signs that could potentially be lupus related. And for example, like I had gone in and I had a flushed face. Again, didn't know that was a sign. It was summertime in Texas. So I just assumed from the heat, but no, she educated me and told me that that could be a possibility. Also, I've always struggled with fatigue and getting random fevers. So either way, I was showing signs and she requested I take the panel and then come back to see what the results are. And when I returned back to to my PCP, she notified me that I had RA factor, R, I had tested positive for RA.
Right.
I
Like
may have.
rheumatoid factor, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yes, thank you. And honestly, it was very quick. The appointment was in and out, and she gave me a pamphlet about RA, and she gave me a number to a rheumatologist and sent me out the door. So I didn't know how to feel in that moment. I was confused, but also because she was very nonchalant about the diagnosis and just in the discussion, I assumed that it wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't think that it could lead to change, life altering, like, just, I don't know. I just didn't realize that it was going to affect my life as much as it has. And so looking back at that now, knowing what these past 6 years have looked like, I do feel for that version of myself because I think about her and I'm like, oh my gosh, she was so naive and innocent in that moment. And I know it wasn't my fault. And I know I just didn't know what I didn't know back then. But I just want to go back and hug her because now knowing w- how life changing a diagnosis can be, I realized that my PCP could have handled that conversation differently. I know for her it was kind of just nothing new in her mind, but yeah, so I feel like emotionally I didn't have a response in the moment, but over time I started to realize, wow, like that should have looked differently. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just want to pause to acknowledge that that's really similar to mine. And that well, in my case, I have felt a lot of relief because I didn't know what was wrong, but clearly something was wrong in my body. So the doctor was giving me a path forward to relieving that
Mhm.
pain. So I was like, okay, well, let's go. Give me the treatments. I was very, like you said, I was in retrospect naive and optimistic about it. And I think it's a
Mhm.
little hard these days because for the doctors, it is true that the majority of patients go into remission, but there's this group of patients that have difficult to treat disease and so they don't want to like almost scare people off in the beginning because most likely it's going to be more straightforward, but if it's not, then you end up wishing that you had been told. So anyway, I don't have a coherent thought on that other than I feel similar to you in that the emotionality, I didn't feel emotional other than relief and about my diagnosis until 5 years later when my first medication started wearing off. And then I actually realized what this disease could do to my body and what it really meant. So you're not alone. That's short story long. You're not alone in
Yes.
that.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel better because I honestly think about that and I feel, oh my gosh, I should have known. I should have done XYZ differently. And just now I kind of felt the same way. I felt relief. Oh, I'll take some meds, it'll get fixed, and I'll
Yeah.
move on. And that just wasn't the case. And it didn't really sit in until my second rheumatologist that I met with that I realized, oh my gosh, this is something that I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. And that's kind of when I started understanding the severity of things. And I mean, shortly after, I would say maybe a year after my RA diagnosis, I began having eye inflammation. And I would say that the timeline is a little fuzzy because the inflammation started around 2020, 21 after I had a severe case of COVID. And so obviously that was a whole learning curve in itself just because we had no information on COVID and what it could do to our bodies. And so I wasn't aware that my eye inflammation was related to my autoimmune. I really didn't know what was taking place. And so I scheduled an appointment with an ophthalmologist and he just kind of said that it could have been allergies. It could be from seasonal like allergies, or I'm allergic to something, or really didn't know. He didn't have any idea why I was experiencing the pain and the redness other than just an infection possibly or allergic reaction. So he had just given me some eye drops and kind of sent me out the door. And then when I went back to him and told him, the pain is still very consistent and very severe, it was to the point where I was very sick. I was vomiting. I was lightheaded. I had major migraines, tension in my jaw. I was miserable. I couldn't go outside. The light was affecting my vision. And so I decided to get a second opinion from a different doctor. And as soon as I met with that second ophthalmologist, he immediately said, "You need to see a cornea specialist," and sent me to a cornea specialist. I met with her and she said, "This is actually autoimmune related." She said, "However, my diagnosis is rare and different because typically people in their early 20s and early teens will have eye inflammation and infections and go to the ophthalmologist, and that's when they would receive autoimmune diagnosis."
Yeah.
So she said that it was unusual that it was backwards for me, but she's said, it's actually a good thing because now we know what exactly is taking place and we can go from there and find treatment faster. So I was seeing her, I would say at this time, it was around 2022 when I met with her. I was seeing her at least twice a week for 6 months just because the pressure in my eye was increasing and she was afraid that it could cause a retina detachment. And when the prognosis, when it wasn't getting any better, it was kind of stable, but there wasn't any change, she decided to send me to a retina specialist that she works with sometimes and had him to look at it, because this is when I learned that there are quite a bit of different ophthalmologists for your eye, and they look at different parts of the eye. And it honestly amazed me because it's so small of an organ, but they're able to go in and look at each different thing. They just specialize in each little part, which I'm grateful for in the long run. And either way, my rheumatologist, he, my retina specialist, he looked at my eye and immediately said, you have to have surgery because you're getting floaters stuck. And that is what's causing the pressure in the eye and causing the pain around, on top of the eye inflammation from my autoimmune. So he immediately got me into surgery and I was very nervous. That was my very first surgery. So everything kind of happened quickly. And once I had that, I think it's called a vitrectomy, he said everything looked great and I could then get cataract surgery, because during this time, my eye, my vision had decreased during this time and caused a cataract from everything taking place. So had that done, then had my cataract surgery. And then in 2024 is when they finally said that I was in remission for my eyes. So that was on top of my RA. Everything just kind of snowballed to where I didn't have time to even process. I kind honestly was in survival mode for the past 6 years. And I think now is when I'm finally able to think about everything and kind of heal mentally and physically from the past years of chaos.
Yeah, well, I'm just so sorry you went through all that. And it really is not something that you would think. I'm diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and
Mhm.
the biggest problem in the next few years is going to be my eyes. Like, that's just not something that you would logically I didn't even know, like, until I had been to the ophthalmologist, and that my issues are way, way more less extreme than yours. It's just really bad dryness. I shouldn't say just, but, it's I mean, I've never been to any sort of eye specialist other than just the ophthalmologist, and so I have dryness, and it was only, like, he just mentioned it casually at one of the appointments. "Well, because you have RA, it's harder to treat," and I was like, "What? What do you mean? Raised in my joints, dude. Like, where did you go to
Yes.
med school?" And then I realized, oh, it's systemic, like, it's like and you could say
Mhm.
those words to someone, like, "It's systemic." It seems so, like, vague, but when you're like, "It's literally attacking your eyeballs," you're like, "Oh, okay. I guess
Yeah.
it is systemic." Like,
Yes, exactly. And that kind of was my thought process too, was, well, how can it affect my eyes if it's my joints? I don't understand. They broke it down to me and I was like, oh wow, like I now am cautious of everything that's going on versus
uh,
just my joints because a lot of people that's just the assumption and mine too. So
well, and some people's it is straightforward. I always have to remind
mhm.
myself. Some people do just have one condition, and it's rheumatoid arthritis, and it's mild, and the medications work, and the first medication they tried is a home run, and they just take that the rest of their life, and that is some people's stories. Others, like ours, are more winding.
Yes.
And I'm really glad that before we started recording, you shared with me that you really want to spread awareness about the fact that RA, rheumatoid arthritis, can affect your eyes because
Yes.
you wouldn't, again, well, as we just said, people don't necessarily know that. And sometimes when you're in pain in one part of your body, at least for me, I kind of ignore other parts because I'm just like, I don't want to deal with anything more. And it's like really important with your eyes in particular because they're so important for your everyday function to take the best care of them. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that is one thing that well, like you mentioned, that I am passionate about
Yeah.
because I would never want someone else to go through that pain and fear the way that I did because it really was a journey and I felt like my life had kind of was on pause during that time frame just because I mean, I need my vision to drive and to read, to do all of these things. And it really kind of just put my life on pause. But I am grateful for my cornea and retina specialist. I kind of joke and say that I like see them more than I see like friends
Yeah.
because I've gotten to know everyone there at both clinics and everyone has been so kind. And it's just even today I still have at least I would say every 3 to 4 months, I'll still see them, and when I go in, they're like, "Chelsea, oh my gosh, we're so happy that it's been a long time that we've seen you." So, I feel like this journey has just been so interesting, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the deal with autoimmune. You never know what life's gonna look like, so
Yeah, and I think that's something that my rheumatologist even said one of the reasons she became a rheumatologist. I know you're talking about retinal specialists and stuff, but is that she wanted to be able to get to know her patients over long periods of time and like really become deeply connected to them. And that's not like people specialize in different areas because of those elements in addition to the actual job, right? And I think that
yes.
yeah, I mean, I think that that a lot of times people share, and I've shared bad stories of people who didn't treat me well or anything, but there also are these other stories that exist alongside that of providers that become like part of your family. And you mentioned reading. I just want to make pause for a second. Can you let everyone know what you do for a living?
Yes. So I work part time at my public library and I am a customer service representative. So basically, I'm at the front. I'm the one that gets to greet the patrons that come in and I shelf books and get to order items for the library. I do kind of the fun stuff there. So yeah, I love it a lot. So
Well, I know you love reading. By the way, when you said DFW, that's Dallas Fort Worth, right?
yes.
Okay, just for people who don't know the acronyms, but that you love reading and that can be really hard. I mean, obviously, if you became blind for whatever reason, you would learn the accommodations like and stuff like that. There are alternate ways, right? Like audiobooks and
Yes.
braille and stuff. But it's just not what you had planned for your life, right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So I, during this time period, I wasn't working anywhere. During COVID and my diagnosis that had taken place, the job I was at prior, they did not want to make accommodations for me. And so I had to make the tough decision to quit and put my health first. And so it kind of worked out because that's when COVID hit and I was able to stay home anyway. But then the flares happened and all these things. So I had spent I would say about 3 or 4 years not working, and so this is my first job since being out of the workforce, and I really love it. I love my team, and my manager is very accommodating, and it's just been a pleasant experience given my history with working, or working with an autoimmune.
Yeah, well, that's a great story of that there can be workplaces out there that accommodate. And I think working part-time is for me has been really good for energy conservation, right? For fatigue, because you
Yes.
mentioned fatigue is one of your
Yes.
symptoms. Yeah.
Yes, and I made sure when I was very nervous to even apply to jobs because I didn't know what things were gonna look like or what accommodations I need. So I decided to just try part-time and see how my body responds. And honestly, I feel like it's the perfect balance to where I can still be out in the community and see people and then have days where I can rest. So I am very grateful. And I know it's not the case for everybody. And getting to be on both sides, I feel like I can appreciate my job more. So it just, yeah, I don't know. It's just been such a journey. It's just been, I
Um,
feel like I've lived multiple lives since. So,
yeah, you're probably like, I was so young at 24, but like it does feel like it ages you to go through
yes.
what you've been through. Yeah,
Mhm.
it really does, and you've painted a picture of, like, the treatments for the scleritis. I'm curious about the RA. What have been some of the highlights or lowlights of your RA treatments? Have any of them had to be, like, put on hold while you dealt with the eye issues, or have you how did you manage all that?
So I did put my RA treatment on hold at the beginning when I didn't know what was taking place. But as soon as met with my cornea specialist, was like, no, you need to be seeing a rheumatologist. Because we need to work together to find the correct medication. And she was the one that was like, when you find the right biologic, it is going to help with with systemically. So we need to find the medication. So she really pushed me to be consistent, which I'm grateful for because before that, I was trying multiple different medications. And during that time period, I was only on prednisone. And I had been on that for 2+ years, which obviously was a lot on my body to handle. And so she was, I want to get you off the pred and I want to get you on a biologic. So I really owe it to my cornea specialist because she's very direct and obviously cares about my health. And she was able to connect me with rheumatologists that she's worked with in the past. So they were able to all work together, which I'm very grateful for. So yeah, it was a journey, but now that I'm on Humira, it really has helped not only my joints, but my eye health as well.
And that's such a crucial point, like a little educational point to highlight that like the medications work on when they work, they suppress the disease, so prevents all these systemic issues from happening in the first place. It's not just about you might feel the biggest difference in your joint pain, but actually it's also preventing damage to your heart or your lungs or your eyes. And so I think that your story is a testament to
Mm.
that, and it can take trial and error, as you mentioned, but I'm glad that and it's like amazing that your corneal specialist worked with your rheumatologist. That's ideal when the providers talk to each other. It's
Yes.
they don't always have time or their schedules don't always align.
Mm.
So
Exactly. No, I am very grateful that my medical team worked out the way it did, because when I was researching before everything started happening and I got my diagnosis, I was nervous because I heard so many different stories of taking time to find the right doctors and the right medications. And I was kind of preparing myself for what that was going to look like, especially being a very non-confrontational person. I
Yeah.
knew, like, the number one advice is advocate for yourself, speak up for yourself in the doctor's office, and it's easier said than done.
Yes.
But yeah, thankfully, now that it's been about 6 years, I have been able to learn the importance of everything working together, because it is very true. Like, it, I didn't think about biologics during that time. I was just thinking, I need my eye to stop hurting. I need
Yes.
to stop feeling sick all the time. And she was like, that's the only way, is to get on a biologic. So it was a learning curve for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's really, you mentioned being like a people, I'm going to read into this because I know you a little bit, but being a little bit of a
Mhm,
people pleaser, not wanting to complain, wanting that is something a lot of people struggle with. And it's
mhm.
also that can tie into the next topic we're going to talk about, which is sharing your story publicly. Sometimes what prevents people from sharing publicly is that they don't want people to criticize them, or they don't want people to say, "Oh, you didn't do a good job," or you're something like that. That's kind of something. And it's always valid, first of all, to not share your story. You just don't feel like it. You don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't value it.
Mhm.
But I'm curious, what inspired you to start sharing your story more publicly?
So I would say that my journey with sharing my story online has been, it's had its ups and downs. I have definitely, well, I'll say at first, I did not want to share my journey at the beginning. I was very scared that I would receive negative feedback, or that people would have opinions on my treatment, or on how I'm feeling that day, like if I shared a vulnerable post. And I think a lot of my hesitancy to post was due to the negative feedback I received from people in my life. I think, just with my experience with my prior job and how people responded there, and just others, past friendships, etc., it kind of caused me to just keep it bottled in, not share it, kind of be a people pleaser. I'm fine, kind of like we mentioned. But when I started speaking with a therapist, she really encouraged me to post my story on social media. And she said it is important to share about your diagnosis and to find people that can relate to your story. Because again, this is COVID time. I didn't have anybody. I was on my own. And she said, I think it would be very therapeutic to just see what happens. And she's like, you can have boundaries. You don't have to make videos if you don't want to make videos. You don't have to share your face if you don't want to share your face. But as long as you're able to meet other people living similar journeys as you, I think it could be helpful. So she encouraged me to create a page, and I didn't post on it for the longest time. It was the first step, just make the page. And I remember I followed two people, which was you, Cheryl, and it was Another Day with RA, Allie.
Oh,
Those were
yeah.
yes, those were the only two people I followed. And then I finally eventually worked up the courage to start posting, and I was able to meet people within the community. And Jen, gracefully Jen, she was very encouraging, and she would just answer any questions I had, and just would make sure I was included in the group. And it was just so great to find people that related with me. It was honestly game changing for me when I felt like, oh, wow, I'm not isolated. I'm not the only person that's living this life. made me feel validated for sure. So that's what encouraged me and inspired me to continue posting my story, and just the way I've seen you guys handle like sharing y'all's testimony and sharing your what you've learned and how you've included our community. It made me want to create a safe place as well. And so that's what I did. I wanted to spread awareness and just be a place where people could come to ask questions or vent or just share life updates or anything like that. So
That's wonderful, and it's really is a community. Like, I love that your therapist encouraged you, 'cause actually I more often hear of people's therapists saying not to go on social media because 'cause they're worried about the patient being scared or feel worse after going on social media, which obviously is a risk. The benefit is the community and the encouragement and support. It truly is. I wouldn't have thought so deep a connections could be forged virtually until I experienced it.
yeah, for sure. And I will say, circling back to my therapist, she definitely gave me boundaries and a list of things. We're going to make it, but we're not going to look up symptoms. We're not going to
Mhm.
look up XYZ. We're going to make sure that.
It's
So she definitely gave me some rules before starting my page, which I appreciate because I definitely think if I hadn't had those, I would be checking and seeing, well, what does this person's diagnosis look like? Or what if this happens? Because anxiety surrounding health is very real. And I definitely have experienced it, so I am grateful for that. And also, we would do check ins as well. She would check in with me. How are things going? What are the conversations looking like? So I'm grateful she was hands on through the whole process at the beginning while I learned how to navigate what my social media would look like. But overall, I am very grateful to have this community because you are correct. It is just, I don't know, it's just having virtual connections with people is such a unique experience that we get to have in 2025, and I just love it. So I didn't think this would be a thing back when I was in high school or anything like this. So
yeah.
it's pretty neat.
It's a whole corner of the internet people don't understand until they get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about therapy and community. And what other things have helped you cope on your journey, whether it's family or friends or spouse, anything you wanna share that's helped you?
Yeah, so I definitely believe that my family and my husband and my family have been my biggest supporters. That my parents have always been patient and understanding when it comes to this. It was a learning curve for them as well, but I know that I could always count on them. There were times when I was working at my old job that when my husband was at work, my dad would come and pick me up and drop me off at work just to help me. So I think those three people, my mom and dad and my husband Angel, they were the three that really saw the dark parts of my autoimmune journey. And I am very grateful for them. And they really have helped me cope in more ways than I could even think of. I didn't even know were possible, but just by my mom cooking or bringing me dinner or bringing me medications or my husband taking over the household responsibilities, like those things are huge for people with autoimmune disorders. Also, I do think that my relationship with my faith also help me cope. I am Christian, and I won't lie, I will say that my faith really was challenged throughout this journey and can often sometimes be challenging just depending on the day is hard. But having something to believe and hope in has also helped me cope through this time in my life. And I would say, lastly, having fun hobbies really have helped. So, things that I can do even on days that I can't get off the couch. I have found different crafts or things I can do that are accommodating to me during my time. So, example, I learned how to crochet. And I know that it isn't hit or miss for people with RA or arthritis. And I'm thankful that I am able to do the craft, and I have found tools that have helped me to crochet and even when I have joint pain. But that is something I can do whenever my hands are doing great and something else is going on. I also enjoy reading. And if I can't read, I love audiobooks. So just finding different things that I can do on the couch to feel productive, because before my diagnosis, I was a busybody. I was nonstop going. And then I loved it. I loved having plans made all the time and working and just doing things. I just loved feeling productive. So whenever my diagnosis took place and all those things stopped, that honestly could have been the hardest part for me, is not feeling like I was doing enough, which is such a hard thing to wrap your mind around of, well, I can't go to the park. I can't go meet my friends for brunch. I can't do these things. So I made it my mission to find things that made me feel productive and but also respected my limit, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's huge. That is completely makes sense. And I really do feel it's a cruel irony that that RA seems to happen to a lot of people that love using their hands, that love doing knitting, crocheting, cross stitch, like or musicians or so many meaningful activities and hobbies use our hands, and those can be sore if you're not on a treatment plan that's working well. So for me, swing dancing is very heavy on the
Mhm.
hands as well.
Yeah.
So I love that you can still crochet
Mhm.
and I think you have ways to feel productive, however that is defined to you, you know,
Mhm.
and feeling like you are like I am similar. I like to I my parents are like ever since you were little, you always want to have a little project. Like I would make
Mhm.
collages, I would make cards and like stationery, make little pictures for people. And it's just fun.
Yeah, but yes, I agree. I definitely have always loved creating things and making gifts, and it is my love language. I love it. Like gift giving and acts of service are my number two or top two love languages. So when those were taken away, I felt, well, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And the second that I was able to find things that I enjoyed and made me feel purposeful again, it really helped my mental health during the dark days for sure.
That's so beautiful. And I was thinking back to when you were talking about sharing your story more publicly. This just came to me. I did not prepare you for this question, so if you don't want to talk about it, it's okay. But I saw this post a while ago, and it was about representation of different like cultural and ethnic backgrounds in the chronic illness community. And it was basically saying it said something like not every person with a chronic illness is a wealthy white woman, and it was like a African American man saying that in the post. I could find it. If I find it, I'll put it in the show notes. So that's something that people have brought up to me who are like, I'm Caucasian and I do feel that my story is represented a lot in the community. There's a lot of
Mhm.
other white
Mhm.
women sharing their stories, and I'm curious if have people responded to you because of your own cultural background, or do you ever get or do you feel like that was, like, a motivation for you in sharing your story at all, or if
Ye-
it's not?
No, yes, honestly, it was. I will say the Hispanic community does, how do I say this?
Yeah, yeah.
It is, but a lot of Hispanic people deal with chronic pain, deal with arthritis, diabetes, health issues. But because a lot of, well, I don't want to generalize, but some people don't have the knowledge on what it looks like, especially for our people. For example, I have a lot of aunts and uncles that deal with chronic pain, and they either A, don't want to go and get a diagnosis or treatment, or B, don't understand what it means because we don't have a lot of, I guess, people educating us in that this is an issue for our people. And I want to take it back to when we went to the Room Champion, the investigators meeting. There was a rheumatologist that is doing a research project surrounding the Hispanic community. And I appreciated that because I feel like uh, Hispanic people deserve to have this kind of knowledge to be able to improve our health. And I do want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that voice and to bring awareness for other Hispanic people that may not know where to start. I mean, my story included, I had no idea what to think or do. And looking back now, even having conversations with my mom and my dad, they're like, "Oh yeah, like your grandma and grandpa had arthritis for sure." And I'm like, "Okay, this would have been great to know because this it does affect me." And they're like, "Well, we didn't know. We didn't understand until you started gaining knowledge about arthritis. Now we're aware that, oh, a lot of people in our family, so it is genetics." And so, yeah, I just want to be that person and help other people like me to be able to then help their families. So it was important. It was a part of my one of the reasons why I chose to start sharing. And I have met maybe I want to say 2 or 3 other Hispanic women that share their stories. I'm sure there are more out there. Those are the only 3 that I am aware of and that I'm friends with on social media, which has been great because we can relate to certain things like just childhood background, culture, foods, different things like that. But I think it is important for all communities to understand that it can affect everybody differently.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I did want to highlight that just to say, yeah, that we need more representation of people outside the category that I fall into, like white women. So,
Thank you.
so I appreciate you sharing about that, and I want to always give a platform to anyone else listening who wants to share their story. Shoot me a DM as well.
Of
But
course, thank you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm really grateful to you for taking the time. And unfortunately, we have to go on to the rapid fire questions
Yeah.
now. Just and we could talk for hours, I know.
Yes.
But what is your best words of wisdom for somebody who's newly diagnosed with either rheumatoid arthritis or scleritis or both, I guess?
I would say my best words of wisdom is to give yourself grace just because it's so easy to feel guilt or shame surrounding a diagnosis. But I just want to encourage you to just be patient and take each day one step at a time. Don't get caught up in trying to have all the answers at once. Take your time to learn the new version of yourself and allow yourself to grieve when needed. I definitely wish I had that advice when I first got diagnosed.
That's that's beautiful. I resonate with all of that. And do you have a favorite quote or inspirational saying for tough days?
Yes. So, like I mentioned, I am Christian. So, there are 2 scriptures that every time I'm having a hard day or when I'm anxious in a doctor's office, they just come to my mind. And the first one is Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous. And then the second one is Romans 8:18, the pain you're feeling can't compare to the joy that is coming. And honestly, those have really just kind of been my mantras and on really hard days. It just keeps me going for sure.
I love that. On a totally different note, do you have a favorite arthritis gadget or tool in your toolbox?
Yes, I have to say my finger and hand massage roller sounds weird, but I love it. The thing, it saved my life. And then the other one would be my cooling eye mask for eye flares. That was a game changer as well. So,
Oh, love that. Yeah, you really don't know how many nerve endings are around your eye until your eye
yeah,
starts hurting, and then you're like, "What?" Yeah,
yeah,
sorry, I really
exactly.
feel for you because my eyes hurt just from dry eyes. So, anyway, now this is one I know we could talk about for hours, but is there any of a book or a movie or show you've watched or read recently that you'd wanna share?
So I actually just finished Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I always flip her last name, but it was a 5-star read for me. I really loved it. I highly recommend it. It's the first book she's written since I believe 2022, and her books are great.
Okay, I will check
Anyway,
that one out.
yes.
And then last one, this is literally what is the meaning of life? But what does it mean to you to live a good life and thrive with rheumatoid arthritis?
So I mm,
And it's a hard.
oh my god. Okay. Even I'm trying to think of the right way to say it.
Well, and I will say you've answered it in different ways throughout. Like in a way, the whole conversation kind of answers that in the sense of like you talked about engaging in things that are valuable to you and still being part of a community. But I'll let you put it in your words.
I would say even though it has been challenging to live with RA and it has come with many setbacks, it has also allowed me the opportunity to learn about my health on a deeper level. I have learned more about myself physically and mentally these past 6 years that I don't think I would have if I hadn't received a diagnosis, which seems counterintuitive, but I truly didn't understand my body or think about my health until I received a diagnosis. But it also has allowed me to get outside of my comfort zone. And I've been given amazing opportunities to meet others in the rheumatology world and be able to advocate for a community. And I think it's just given me a stronger voice. And I am weirdly grateful for it. Does that make sense? It's
100%.
such like a weird feeling, but I don't know.
It's kinda like making lemonade from lemons, like, you had to and it's I relate to what you talked about you take your body for granted, especially as a young person, and
Mm,
so it's changed your relationship to your body and probably brought you some gratitude for the things like, sometimes I just think, "Wow, there's a lot of areas in my body that are actually functioning right now." Don't get me wrong, there's areas that are not functioning, but I'm more grateful for the ones that are because some of them aren't.
yeah, exactly. Especially since my eyes have been doing so much better since December. I've just been appreciative when I wake up. I'm like, I can see. I have no headaches. It's just you don't take the little things for granted once you get a diagnosis.
Really, really relate. That's beautiful. Well, last question. Where can people find you online? And I want you to feel free to plug your online store as well.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at the Florist Grow here. That's where I share just daily life on living with RA. And I do have a small business with my mom, and it's called at Juniper Wildflower. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And we just share some of our crafts that we've made.
I think that's beautiful. How fun. Well, I've had the pleasure of meeting you in person at you mentioned the investigators meeting. That's from the Rheumatology Research Foundation, and they have a volunteer program where you can become what's called like a room champion, where you learn about what's going on with the research foundation and help amplify their work. So I'll also put a link in the show notes, which are always on my website for people to apply. It's like a 5-minute form to become a room champion too. So if you do that, you get accepted, you might be able to meet in person at one of these fun events. So thank you so much for sharing your story today. And if
Thank you for
everyone,
having me.
yes, it was wonderful chatting with you. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye. Thank you so much for listening. This podcast is supported by Room to Thrive, an educational program I created to help empower you to live life to the fullest with rheumatic disease. In the program, you're going to learn evidence-based tools for managing all the ways rheumatic disease affects your life. And my goal is to help you go from overwhelmed to confident, supported, and connected in a matter of weeks. You can go through the pre-recorded modules on your own in the self-paced course, or you can take the course along with a robust support group of new arthritis friends to support you and cheerlead you along the way. Learn more in the link in my show notes, or you can always go to www.myarthritislife.net. And if you like this podcast, I'd be so honored if you took the time to rate and review it. I also encourage you to share it with anyone you know who might benefit from it. I also want to remind you that you can find full transcripts, videos, and detailed show notes with hyperlinks for each episode on the Arthritis Life website, plus full episode videos on the Arthritis Life YouTube channel. If you have any ideas for content for future episodes, or you want to share your story on the podcast, please send me, Cheryl, an email at info@myarthritislife.net. I can't wait to hear from you, and thanks so much again for your time.